the set to head out to somewhere and get pulled over by the cops.
We went to Tombstone. We were going to, we wanted to go visit the graves of people that we had known back in the 1800s. You know, and we wanted to visit their graves and maybe piss on them or have a glass of wine in a fond memory. You know? And we actually headed out right from the set. So I had a big scar, it was filthy. Bill was, you know what he looked like. And we're in a car. I had rented a convertible Ford, and I was speeding naturally, heading for Tombstone in Arizona. The cop pulled me over, and I had a gun under the seat. It was not a real one, but it was one I practiced with all the time. And I said, "What do you think, Bill?" And he stuttered. He went, "No, Lance, don't do it, man. Don't, come on. Don't mess around, man. Don't do it." And I said, "All right, I won't." So I get out because I'm the driver, and I walk over to the cop, and I said, "What seems to be a problem?" And I was still in character. I was talking like Jesse Hooker. And it was like I was staring at Harry eyeballing him, and he wrote a nervous ticket. He said, "You know how fast you were going?" And I said, "Why don't you tell me?" And, you know, and as he's riding, I'm looking at him like he's a meal. You know, that great line, I had, "You're gonna look really funny with your face ripped off," you know. And I was kind of thinking that as he looked up, and when he looked up and saw my expression, he grabbed his gun and went. It's like I went in my heart. I went, "Eureka!" I got it. And I'm glad he didn't pull it and shoot me. But he gave me the ticket, slapped it in my hands, and "Get out of here." We ended up heading up on. We went into Tombstone and sat by the side of the road. The reason we sat by the side of the road is that the real graveyard in Tombstone has been paved over with a road. So we knew that, and we were sitting there drinking a bottle of wine, talking about it, improvising shit. Great fun, really. That's the beauty of it all. I mean, and we were getting paid to do this.
Talk a little bit about working with Catherine Bigelow, because Academy Award winner for The Hurt Locker, getting ready to come out with another flick. But Near Dark was the first exposure a lot of us had to her as a director, and very meticulous with the shots that she wants from what I've heard. Talk a little bit about working with her as a director.
You know, talent is always an accumulation of real things that you love. That's talent. That's the definition I think of it. Catherine was a painter, and her view of things was like through the eyes of a painter. It's seeing things in a picture. But she was also, it's a difference in working with a patriarch who's ordering you around like Charles Bishop Whalen, or a matriarch who's kind of nurtures you to the point where you feel like she's one of the vampires. You know, one of the, we don't call them vampires, we call them nocturnal nomads. Cool. But we really loved her, and we really felt supported by her, including the producer. He was a great producer that was on it. And we would improvise stuff like, how are you going to get into a hotel room when it's full sunlight? What have you got that would allow you to get in there? So we would improvise attacking into a space where the windows are all bright and you're going to burn up. So we found tin foil, and we found blankets, and we found spray paint, and we would attack a room. And in a couple of minutes, like boot camp, we would have that thing captured so that we were safe. And she wanted that. She wanted all those things. I mean, I got to pick my guns. I picked a Colt with a crucifix and a handle, and I had a Desert Eagle, and I had another little hidden gun in case anybody needed it.
Road trips.
Yeah. No, you know, I had given myself the background that I came from the Southern Navy, not like cavalry or fighting on the battlefield, but fighting on ships. And my background was that I was on an ironclad, and we had a big battle on Chesapeake, and we got hammered, and our ship was slowly drifting at night into the reeds of the Chesapeake shore, and it was a cold night, and the men were dying of the deck splitting up, and pieces of wood were killing them like shrapnel. And I was laying there on the deck with my chest busted wide open, and it was steaming into the night air, and how I got turned. But I created all of that because I needed to have that confidence that that's where I came from. I even had a rebel flag sewn into my coat.
Did you tell
She
Catherine
loved that.
story?
Catherine loved it. Yeah, she loved it. But this is what we bring to it. I mean, this is our obligation, is to try to create something that you can live and not act. I don't want to get caught act. Or I'll never work again.
Moving forward a little bit to your work with Chris Carter and Millennium, is Frank Black's story wound up being such a rich tapestry to be able to draw from, and it's one of those tales where would you like some rocks? We'll wind up being cut really short because Fox and their manager. No, Fox, not me. We're there. Shame on Fox. You heard it from Gina Torres earlier. Were you surprised with the short leash that the show was given by the network?
I didn't feel it. I was so busy working. I mean, we did 3 years of that, 60-something shows. We were so busy doing it that we never even, I didn't even see the shows. You guys saw it on DVD, now, but I never saw the shows. I just did them. And once the DVDs came out, I looked at them and I went, holy, man, it was good stuff. I mean, 50% of them was the best stuff I'd ever seen on television. I mean, or I thought it was little movies, little, Twilight Zones or whatever they were. Man, Fox, they nominated me 3 years in a row for Best Actor in a series. And they flew me down. They would take me out of my environment, which was Vancouver, and the environment of Frank Black and all those people, and fly me to LA, which is like, that's like you're going to Disneyland to get your graduation. It's like, what? I didn't even want it when I was sitting there in my tuxedo, and I was praying I wouldn't get it, because then there was Jack Nicholson sitting in the front, getting ready to get his for his movies, and I was going to get up there and go, God, I love Millennium, and get my little thing. They love me, and they really love me, shit. I didn't want to do that. And so when I didn't get it, I was grateful, and I went home. But really funny stuff happens, man. I mean, it's like, I think now, actually, there's going to be a Millennium film. I'm really believing in it wholeheartedly.
Has there been work on it?
Well, this is what's happened. A book was written out of England, and it's called Back to Frank Black. And it's a 500-page book that is all full of blogs and things written by fans from 85 countries or 75 countries. And it's a good book. Chris Carter wrote the introduction for it. And he's actually, like last night, he got an award down in Austin. And he said, I really would like to see it happen. So it's gone from 4 years ago, where we were banging on the door of Fox saying, you should think about this, to now, even the creator of it is going, I think this is a good idea, and I think it should happen. So we're that much closer. The book is like a manifesto that Martin Luther is nailing to the doors of the church, saying it's now or never. Because if they don't do it now, I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it. I'll go back to Broadway, off Broadway. I'll shine shoes. I'll spike them. I'll take this nose and cut it right off my face.
During the writer's strike, the guys from Broken Lizard put together a flick. Since Kevin Heffernan was the writer for it, they were able to sneak it in that period where there wasn't a lot of stuff being made. But you come in as, and it's one of the few times where I've seen you in a purely comedic role. And the film's called The Slam Salmon. And yeah, and he plays there have to be a couple people who've seen The Slam Salmon at least. Yes, fabulous. Again, Netflix, shame on you, go watch it, it's extremely funny. Also, Michael Clark Duncan is in it as Cleon Salmon, as a heavyweight.
Yeah, I love them.
But talk a little bit about that, because you don't get a chance to work in comedy that much. And I thought that you did an amazing job with it.
Thank you. Well, you can see I'm a bit of an idiot, so I fit well into comedy. I don't think I'm funny, I just think situations are funny. you give me any situation, if you push it to the max, it becomes funny. I don't like laugh at myself doing it. But God, comedy. If I could make my ex-wife laugh, something's right. My accountant laughs. I'm making jokes.
Your accountant's not supposed to laugh, not even all the way to the bank.
I think I'm going to get audited, and I think I'm going to try to make the IRS guy laugh. Those are high stakes, though. It's like, did you like that joke? I'll give you another one. I ain't got no money.
You're playing a film. You're playing a TV producer in the Slam Salmon, and I'm curious if you had taken all those little mental notes from people who had pissed you off over the course
I
of
have played a producer twice in movies, and I love it because I'm playing guys that I actually was under the thumb of, and it was so much fun to make them really the buttheads that they really are. And I played a guy. Oh, I loved every minute of it. I did everything but fart. And I would have done that if I was a little more friendly with the Slam Salmon guys.
Well, I mean, those broken lizard guys would have taken it in stride, and they would have done it.
In fact, I'm going to try it right now.
Juleps.
It's absurd. Isn't what we're doing right now absurd? Really? Talking about this imagery, this imagination we all have.
Well, it's the fun part of it, though. That's the trick. Because, I mean, every person in this room, you know, there's a role that they connected with you on. And as you look at it, and, you know, as a stout young man of 35, it's got to be really gratifying to look at that.
Did you say 35?
I did.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there one role that you had wished had taken off more than you had the opportunity to? I'll banter a little bit. Is there a role you were able to say, you know, God, I wish I could have gotten, you know, more of an opportunity to get into that person's head? Or have you always been able to give that much flesh into each of your roles?
You know what? Miracles happen. There are no disappointments because even when things go bad, the movie comes out and it's a real turkey. I have a way of covering it by saying, well, it was an alimony film. You can forgive me that, can't you? But then I got a script and I shot down in San Antonio recently. It's called Champion. And it was this most unlikely film. It's about a dog. I'm playing a grandfather who lives on a ranch. And the ranch has been in our family for 5 generations. And all of a sudden, my daughter, who is the mother of my granddaughter, right? I'm trying to place this for you, like a chess game. Holy shit, that's good. My daughter is in the military, and she's called up. My ex-wife, who's my daughter's mother, she's in Russia trying to build little schools. So nobody is there to take care of my granddaughter, who's like, you know, 16, 17. And she gets dropped on my ranch with me for like 3 months. Now, if you can imagine, I don't have television, I don't have internet, I don't know what this does, you know. And I don't have a phone because I believe in talking people face to face. And this movie turned out to, and meanwhile, there's a dog involved. My dog, who was a cattle dog, gets killed by a bull, one of my bulls. And so now I have a dog who's mourning, he's mourning the death of this other dog because they were together. And pouting day in and day out. And that's what I'm left with when this girl arrives. So she connects with the dog. Sounds like a good movie, doesn't it? She connects with the dog, and the dog comes alive around her, but around me it falls down like a wet coat falling off a hanger. But by the end of this movie, even the producers are saying, what happened? How did this happen? Because the relationship between me and the daughter was suddenly fleshed out and turned into this thing that nobody saw in the script until we did it. I work with a wonderful actress, Dora. And this movie's made in Texas, made in San Antonio, and it's really going to be good. Everybody's knocked out by it.
Are we going to get distribution?
Story, you know. What?
Is it getting distribution? Are we going to get a chance?
Oh, it will. It will. They're cutting it right now. They have the cut locked, and a lot of people have seen it. And I'm so proud of it because there wasn't a lot of money, there wasn't a lot of fanfare, and it was a story that was intimate. How did I pull that off? I have no idea, but it worked. I mean, I worked on things, you know, but you never know. You never know.
Well, plus you also have the fans.
Well, if I ever met her, I'd dye my hair, I'd go to the gym, I'd do all kinds of trouble. Hey guys, one of those dreams. Go, yeah.
Right here.
I was just wondering, one of my favorite movies with you is a small one called The Garden, and you played Satan in it.
Oh, where I played the devil,
The
yeah.
devil. Yeah, I was just sort of wondering what you did to prepare, because that was such an interesting take on him. It's a big role. I mean, it's very...
I would love to tell you the truth. That was an alimony film.
But how many times do you get a chance to play Old Scratch? I mean, come on.
It was a good alimony film.
If you really want to do Old Scratch, I mean, you really got to dig deep for that one. I mean, because look at us. Old Scratch could be sitting here right now with us, and we wouldn't know it. So how do you play something as subtle? Because it doesn't come in on wings with fire coming out of its nostrils. I mean, and that when they always pick the convenient thing. He's a farmer. He's got a rocking chair. He's a little kid comes with a father. I mean, that story was like, jeez. All right, I got to do something. I mean, I had to do it. We needed the money. I needed the money. Or I'd go to court, get beat up.
But isn't it interesting?
That's an alimony film, I swear to God.
But an alimony film made that much
Some
of an
films
impact.
I won't say that about, what?
But an alimony film made that much of an impact on her, where she says, you know what,
I know,
that's the trick,
but
and that's the
I
right
want
thing.
to be honest with you. I did the best I could, I did. I didn't like the cut when they cut it. But you're filling it in. You may be Christian or something, that you really love that kind of story.
No, actually, it was kind of the Americana of it, and your take on the devil was very interesting to me.
Did you see that? Did you see the cornfield, the little garden?
Yeah.
That was crap, man. I mean, no matter what you think, that was crap.
Special effects, yeah.
And I had to live up to that one, like let's go in the garden and talk this over, boy. Plastic shit falling all over the place.
Right over here. I got two questions for
I know
you.
there's kids here, I apologize.
I want to know, what was your best experience on the set for Aliens? And two, were you approached for the sequel to Aliens that's coming out in February, which is the video game?
I did do the new video game, which is Alien Colonial Marines. In fact, I was just in New York. There was a big, am I answering your question right?
Yes, sir.
I've done a lot of video games. In fact, so many that by the time the video game gets out, I forget what I played in it. I know that. I mean, it sounds like, oh, what a jerk. But then when I see the game and how well they did, Alien Colonial Marines is a $40 million video game. It's incredible, man. I saw it in New York. Did a lot of interviews. And I played Wayland in it, and I also played Bishop in it. So Wayland, the only difference between Wayland and Bishop is Bishop tries to be helpful, and Wayland commands you. Like, hey, do that. So that's the only subtle difference.
Was there a moment on the set of Aliens that sticks out in your head that we might not have known from all of us absorbing all of the special materials for it? Was there something that you'll carry around with you because of that experience?
Yeah, I remember Jim asking me, "Are you claustrophobic?" And I said, no, I don't think so. I've never felt claustrophobic. He said, okay, would you mind getting in this pipe and crawling, 150 yards with smoke coming in? Yeah, those are memorable moments, but they're surprises. They're a surprise. And then, of course, once I get in the pipe and they weld it shut, then I have to realize, well, I really got to see this through to get out the other end. Funny stuff.
Right over here.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
I've gone far afield here.
I blame myself. It's my fault. Cheers, man. Right here.
Moon talk at a bar. It starts out, wow, what a day. That weather's really crappy, isn't it? Yeah. By the end of the night, I love you, buddy. don't you come home and stay at my house? Go ahead.
How did you feel about playing Abraham Lincoln in the day Lincoln was shot?
Well, yeah, that was something. That was between the first and second season of Millennium. I guess Greg, the director, thought with the right circumstance, he could make me look like him. I actually grew the beard and I got a lot of makeup and stuff, but that was the most beautiful experience I've ever had, I think, in terms of dealing with subject matter that has to do with politicians or our government. You know, I mean, when you look what Giamatti did with, you know, with that series he did, oh man, the guy did a fantastic job. But Lincoln, I had to learn as I went because I was literally shooting 2 weeks after I got off of Millennium, and that's not the time to do Lincoln. I should have been working on Lincoln for 6 months or a year, you know, to really gather enough to where I could not get caught acting him. But it was a beautiful experience, it really was. I have so many stories I could tell you about that, but I don't want to bore you because if you saw it, the only good scene in all of the Lincoln stuff was when I was playing with my son in the White House barefoot. That's when I was the happiest. And I think that's when Lincoln was the happiest. He actually had cholera, you know, toward the end of his life because the water coming out of the Potomac went directly into the White House in a pipe. And he had a constant low-grade case of cholera. They from the still photographs of him, his foot was always blurred. They figure, a lot of doctors figure he would have died in 6 or 8 months if he hadn't been shot. He had a bad heart. Anyway, you learn a lot doing it, but I love the man. I have a big book of all of his speeches and I read them often.
Were you a fan of Lincoln's before you had gotten the role?
How could you not be? I mean, how could you not be? I mean, it's, you know, it's a period in our history that he's on every penny that I have in my pocket.
And yet, I feel that there are a lot of school kids who don't really have that. I mean, maybe that'll happen when
a lot of
First
students,
Lincoln comes out.
They don't personalize it only because what's their stakes in it? If they have to write a report, but if you try to figure them out intimately, then you've got good stakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I had a couple of questions here. First, was the part of Frank Black written for you? And I got to meet you a couple of years ago at Texas Frightmare, and I'd ask you about Pumpkinhead, and that was when I first heard the phrase, an alimony movie. And at that
Pumpkinhead
time,
was not an alimony film.
it was not. I heard you may have been talking about another one, but I enjoyed Pumpkinhead.
Oh
But
yeah,
after hearing you say alimony movie so many times, I mentioned earlier, I think yesterday, about Texas alimony laws. You have to be married 10 years in Texas, and then after that, they still have trouble getting alimony. So feel free to come on and move to Texas.
And get married.
We'll have you, man.
You know, there's a lot of women in this room, and you don't want to give them any ammunition.
Yeah, there you go.
I'm kidding. No, you don't really go into a marriage thinking you're going to get divorced.
Right.
If you did, you would say, all right, first of all, we're going to Vegas, and I'm going to dress like Elvis, and you're going to dress like so-and-so, and we're going to get married, one of those little things, and let's plan our divorce now while we're at it. Nobody does that, you know, so
Right.
that's an unexpected, you know,
No, I meant that.
outcome.